Stairways, released in 1985 by Thor Computer Software for the Commodore 64, is one of those games that sticks in your brain like a hangover from a night you don't quite remember. The entire escapade unfolds in a dimly lit bar, where your ultimate goal is to collect all 7 pieces of the legendary amulet of budgie WONGA. A quest that sometimes feels both absurd and essential, as if the fate of the entire pub rests on keeping a mythical bird very, very happy. If that sounds zany, then let's dive into this peculiar Commodore 64 title that not everyone would have played back in the day. Why is it called Stairways though? Well, the main dude you play as is Matthew Smith. True story. Matthew, Stuart, Stu Fotheringham and a gang of lads once partied like there were no tomorrow. At some point, Matthew shows up wearing nothing but a sheet at a biker club called Stairways. And just like that, coder Mark Dawson thought, yep, that's the seed for a game. Genius, right? Even playing it back now makes me smile. It was like wandering into a virtual pub, trying not to attract the attention of the doorman. The graphics are surprisingly colourful, and the funniest part has to be the patrons rocking back and forth like they're lost in some imaginary tune. Probably a little too merry from the bar, making every stroll across the floor feel like you're walking through a room of very enthusiastic, slightly wobbly dancers. Playing it as a very young kid, I remember a creeping paranoia. Nudging a table too close to a glass or brushing past the jukebox always made me flinch, convinced that the doorman would appear and boot me straight out. And he often did. You see, the rules were merciless. Spill a drink and it was an instant loss of life. The bouncer lumbering in to remind you the bar wasn't your playground. The gameplay itself is an odd mix of survival and arcade sensibilities. You manage 3 vitals: energy, hunger and drunkenness. Hunger creeps up if you ignore the burger kiosk tucked in a corner, and sobriety makes it harder to fend off hallucinations. To stay effective, you need to keep the character suitably intoxicated, returning to the bar for regular drinks. The balance is delicate. Drink too little and hallucinations overwhelm you. Drink too much and you risk toppling a glass, invoking the wrath of the doorman. It's a juggling act that somehow works, compelling you to plan the simplest of movements, keeping an eye on vitals and threats alike. To be honest, after saying all of this, I'm not even sure any of those meters actually were affected by anything I just mentioned. Just ignore them. Grab all the pieces and wait for the timer to go to 0 and then you'll reach the next level. It's all very bizarre. Combat is just as eccentric. You don't swing a sword or fire a weapon, you project thought bubbles to disperse the hallucinatory foes. Looking back, it sounds utterly ridiculous, but at the time it made perfect sense. Each bubble zaps the boots that appear and slows the drain on your energy, and watching them vanish with a cheerful pop gives a strangely satisfying, slightly absurd sense of control. The game encourages a rhythm of consumption and projection, a strange dance of drunken awareness that you can't quite see anywhere else on the Commodore 64. Okay, maybe Bozo's Night Out. The rules laid out in the game's description cement the logic. Hallucinations deplete energy, hunger must be attained at the burger stand, drinks keep you functional, and spilled glasses trigger the bouncer. Collect all 7 amulet pieces before the timer runs out and you progress to the next level, essentially surviving the bar crawl until the night ends. It's a simple premise made delightfully weird by its mechanics and presentation. Looking back, Stairways shows exactly what the mid-80s on the C64 could offer, a game that was slightly unnerving, utterly peculiar, and impossible to forget. It wasn't going to dazzle anyone with cutting-edge graphics or slick gameplay, but it had personality in spades. Navigating the hazards of food, drink and mental combat with hallucinations while trying not to get chucked out made every playthrough a tiny trial of endurance. The visuals were drab, the patrons were vaguely threatening, and the mechanics were just odd enough to lodge themselves in your memory like a stubborn pint stain on your favourite coaster. The humour sneaks in through the absurdity of thought bubble combat, the looming threat of the bouncer, and the sheer ridiculousness of keeping a digital self from disaster in a bar full of ghosts. Every wrong move, spilling a drink, hallucinating at the wrong moment or accidentally upsetting the wrong patron felt like a minor catastrophe, and that's where the game's subtle wit thrived. I must add too that Fred Gray really knew how to make the SID chip sing on this game, classic Gray flair. instantly recognisable and impossibly catchy. It's unmistakably his work, sitting proudly alongside gems like Shadowfire and also sounding incredibly similar, yet reminding us why the golden age of C64 music still gives us goosebumps today. Stairways may look clumsy now, but that clumsiness was part of the fun. It somehow captured the trials of adult life in the oddest way, managing resources, keeping up appearances, and avoiding disasters that seemed trivial until they weren't. Even something as innocent as a pint could spell doom, and Hallucinations were there to keep you on your toes. It's not a blockbuster by any stretch, but in its understated, eccentric way, it remains a memorable slice of mid-80s C64 gaming. And with that, I'm off for a pint. Thanks for watching, guys. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and be sure to let us know what you thought of Stairways in the comment section. As always, your continued support is massively appreciated, so hit that subscribe for more content just like this. Check out the various playlists on the channel for more Commodore titles, and maybe stick around, as there's another one coming up right now. Hopefully, I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, bye for now.